Director Chapman, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
We can. Thank you for confirming.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We have confirmation of quorum. We're going to call the meeting to order. First, the chair will acknowledge that we're located on the traditional territory of the Lakota people. Adoption of agenda, please.
Second.
Director Wally, Director Monish. Petition and delegations, Vancouver Island Regional Library, Ben Hyman, Executive Director. Pardon me?
Do you need to call a question on adoption?
Oh, yeah. Okay, we'll call a question. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Now let's go to petition and delegation to Mr. Ben Hyman.
Hello.
Morning.
Morning. Thank you for this opportunity. Thanks for the invitation. Good to see everybody. As I understand it, I have 10 minutes, and I think I have 20 slides, so I'll speak extraordinarily quickly and then happy to take questions at the end. Okay, so Vancouver Island Regional Library, we're in our 88th year. And Campbell River has always been a member, initially the school district. The founding members of the library system were actually the school districts and health authorities in the communities up and down the island. So very proud to be your library service partner, both here in the Strathcona Regional District and 37 other locations from Haida Gwaii south to Sydney and Souk, and from the Central Coast over to Tofino Ucluelet. Let's see where I'm aiming. There we go. So last year, Rural embarked on a big undertaking to revise its vision mission as well as its strategic plan. At the center, we're in the business of lifting communities up, and business is absolutely booming right across the region. In terms of usage and impact, know that 33% of residents in our service area are active library users, which according to Pew Research, Canadian Urban Institute, and others, makes public libraries the most used public amenities after roads, water, sewer, and waste. It's pretty incredible. It's very high use services. So these are our locations within the Strathcona Regional District. You see Cortez and Quadra and Campbell River and Sayward are all there, and Tassis and Gold River. I'll go back, actually, if you can go, I will go back. It seems to be working now. There we go, 165,000 annual visitors. It's 14,000 people a month to those locations. And within the SRD, 31% of the population is considered an active user. Definition of active is actually set by the province. It's a statistic that they require from us. We're serving all demographics, hosted nearly 500 events just in the SRD, and 14,000 people attended. And Virl has the third largest library collection in the province of all the public libraries. So it's Vancouver Public, Burnaby Public, and then Vancouver Island Regional. And of that collection, 38% is now digital. So almost 40% of people using our facilities or our services, are entirely digital. So that's streaming audio, video, that's podcasts, downloadable ebooks, magazines, and so forth. On just one of our ebook platforms, we hit over 1 million uses last year. So very, very high use, including here in the SRD. This is the population heat map. Not coincidentally, where you see the bursts of heat and intensity is where population is, mostly congregated, and that's where the use of our services is heaviest. Just a bit of a breakdown. Probably not surprisingly, the Campbell River branch represents over half of the circulation within the Strathcona Regional District. Then you see all the other locations. And there's much more detailed heat maps at the back of the presentation in your package if you're interested on a community-by-community basis. But they're all the locations are seeing great usage. We also offer something called Books by Mail service. Initially, this was to all the lighthouse keeping families up and down the coast, and it's evolved over time. We're currently reviewing it with a lens for reconciliation in particular, and improving our services to rural, remote, and First Nations communities. But that accounts for 6% of the SRD's total circulation. As I said, we engaged in a process to review our strategic plan, really asking the question, what do we want to look like at 90? 3,200 participants, including a number of folks from this region. 5 goals. The first is recommitting to improving literacy rates. Depressingly, literacy rates in our region, including here in the SRD, have dropped like a stone over the last 25 years. Something like 4 in 10 adults are struggling with basic literacy at work on a daily basis, according to the provincial agency, Dakota Literacy, which holds the pen on provincial interventions. And what's really a concern for the regional library system and all of us is literacy is the key social determinant of health. So if we don't have literacy, we're all paying for that in a variety of ways. Second strategic goal, I'll just whip through these, is to review, innovate, and design service models, really thinking about equity. So recommitting at the core of a regional library district is concern for equity. Third goal is to extend the impact and reach of our services through partnerships and reciprocity, just understanding that we can't do everything on our own, and we need to be working as closely as we can with school districts, health authorities, and other partners. Fourth strategic goal is all about our spaces and collective services. And the fifth is about supporting our workforce to meet and contend with the changing usage of public libraries and different demands, particularly post-COVID. I'll talk a little more about COVID, unfortunately, in the next couple of slides. But just to know, now I'll flip over to Budget 2024. So as a reminder, inexplicably for many on an annual basis, despite the fact that we're supported by 38 local governments, our legislation introduces an entirely different deadline for setting budget each year. So in September, we develop and put forward a budget to our board, inclusive of representatives from all the communities represented here. And it goes forward for approval effective January 1 is when that comes into place. So we're already quite a few months into our fiscal year with an approved budget. Last year's process, we had 7 meetings of executive and board to arrive at our budget. And 2 key pieces for Budget 2024. First piece of context is this report by the Canadian Urban Institute and the Canadian Urban Libraries Council that really put forward that there are some nationally observed issues affecting just about every public library in the country post-pandemic. So a few things here. First, the analysis over 3 years finds that public libraries are playing a really crucial role, enabling all levels of government to meet their needs and strengthen the common good. Public libraries are providing a broad array of supports and services and access, and are really critical social infrastructure and community hubs. But the report asks the question, if that's so, then why is it in Canada that the level of funding from both the provinces and the feds lag below the G8 averages? And so there are a number of recommendations in the report, primarily to federal and provincial governments, about seeing critical infrastructure and treating it as such and funding it as such. So as an example, within our regional library system, before COVID, we really didn't have a security budget. 2018, 2019, there was not a line item for security. We're now at about $1 million a year, all inclusive. So that's the entire regulatory environment, everything to do with WorkSafe, security guards in facility, outside of facility, in certainly all of our urban locations. So that's a phenomenon, again, that's nationally observed. The largest 50 public library systems in the country all have those sorts of bills, and it's just relative to the need of different communities. So that's an important factor for us in Budget 2024. The other important factors are here. So we knew we needed a right-sized, needs-based budget for all of our operating expenses. We want to maintain operations and services, and that was direction from the board. We knew we'd have above historical increases given what we're calling the financial legacy of the previous administration. And we knew that our capital levy would be established through the parallel review of our facilities policy and our master plan. So ultimately, here's where we landed at 38 million, which was not a typical increase year over year for the rural average in any of the last 25 years. It was 15%. And it really was about right sizing, seeing those pressures in that context that we spoke to. Local government levies are about 94% of our budget. That's been true since the 1980s. Province is down to 4%, but has a lot to say about what it thinks it should get out for 4%. The largest pressures for us, just like any regional library or library across the country, are wages, benefits, leases, security, and utilities. So you see the range per capita. The legislative model, we're obligated to take our total levy and then split it 50% based on population and 50% on converted land value. You see for the SRD, the total levy breaks down to about $67 per cap. Much like the School Act, doesn't necessarily mean that everybody's using the service, but unlike schools in the region that serve about 5% of the population, we're serving about 33% for significantly less funding than schools. So we do benchmarking, and in preparation for this type of presentation here and elsewhere, we look at comparator populations. And you'll see for the city of Campbell River, some of the cohort examples there. The city's sitting about $700,000 below the average. For electoral areas C and D, and again, you see the cohort examples, about 30,000 below the average. And for Gold River, Sayward, Tassus, Zabalas, and Electoria's A and B, about 16,000 below the average. Sometimes we're doing this benchmarking, it's apples and other types of apples, but they could be radically different apples. It is hard to find exact equivalencies for populations, but we do have a look every year. It's something we think about as we do budget preparation, is how do we sit relative to other library services, both in the region or in the Lower Mainland, interior, and so forth. That's it. I'm not sure how I did for time, but happy to take any questions. Thank you again.
Thank you. Directors, questions? Going once. Oh, Director Mulwany.
Can't resist. Thank you for that presentation. We did definitely notice an increase in our Vancouver Island Regional Library tax this year. And when you were going over that slide, you mentioned that there was a financial legacy issue. And then you also, it said something about a capital levy to be established via the review of the facilities policy and facilities master plan. So does that mean, I'm just trying to understand if that means that when there is this review, is there likely to be another above average increase, or was that review included in this increase? That wasn't clear to me.
Yeah, thank you for the clarifying question. So it was included. That's the good news. So we have our operating budget and we have a capital budget. And in 2023, the review of the facilities policy, board established capital levy at the 13-year average. So based on the 13 previous years, that levy had ranged quite widely from one year to the next. So we set it at 1.37%. It's quite a modest increase. So from 23 to 24, I think it was a $40,000 increase. And that's the levy that supports all of our 39 locations, 7 of which we own, 31 of which are leases either with local governments or private sector. So it's an all-inclusive. There's no second levy that comes out, just the one, happily. And the Audit and Finance Committee will be meeting starting in May to develop Budget 2025. And certainly are mindful that nobody's really excited about a big increase in 2025. So.
Anyone else? Director Landing?
Just curious if you know offhand for our region here, what was the relative proportion of your budget that went to security?
That's a great question. I don't know off the top of my head. I can follow up for sure. Campbell River, certainly we have security costs. related to that. And WorkSafe is affecting all of the branches in the SRD and the entire region. But I can do a breakdown for you, follow up, if you like.
Yeah. So the issues that we've been having have been impacting the WCB rates being applied to all staff at that location, or the whole Vancouver Island Regional Library system.
That's right. So as an employer, we have a rate set for the entire system. And there have been some disruptions in the sector in context of that report that affect the entire sector in BC. And then in addition to those regionally, based on the caseload and incidents and those sorts of things, there's an additional component.
Okay. Yeah, it would be good to know that. And then I'm also just totally fine if you don't have an answer to this, but have you found that things have been a bit better in terms of feedback from staff in Campbell River over the last few months?
Yeah, thank you so much. So I think a lot of the work being done in the city and with the downtown business folks and others, we have seen some normalizing and certainly haven't seen a major incident in at least 6 months, which is excellent. And there was a pattern leading up to that, unfortunately, but we've got we're learning and adjusting and adapting, and local staff are remarkably resilient. So we're getting better also in terms of how we meet folks at the door and that security presence. And of course, when you bring 40 kids into a space for story time, that tends to scare bad apples away too. Right. So we're trying to do more of that with some intention. Programming is really, really good for security.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Director Lott.
You mentioned in your report, thank you for the report, it's great.
It is.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Nope, okay, I'll just speak loud.
No, I got it. Just pushing the thing in the back a little bit more.
I'll let you play with it there, rather than me push a bunch of buttons there.
Test. There we go.
No, that one is,
And that's why we have
You
IT.
better not have set me up on this one. Yeah, again, thank you for the report. I found it very, very illuminating. One of the things that did strike me in the report was the alarming rate decrease in literacy. And I would like to know what you attribute that to and what initiatives the Vancouver Island Regional Library taking to address that.
It is alarming, isn't it? I think 25 years working in and around the sector and on the education side, there's been increasing gravity thinking in decision-making spaces that these really matter a lot and that they're empowering folks. And there's no doubt that smart devices are doing a lot for us. But we have seen slippage on core competencies. There's absolutely no doubt. So critical thinking, ability to read and write and express ourselves in language, and even the ability for respectful debate and discourse. And all of those things are central to our democracy, and that's what public libraries have been doing since even pre-democracy, is really showing up in those spaces to advance some of those components. We're not a really formal structure, so we're not a classroom environment. So in terms of what we're doing in our recommitment is asking those questions of our partners, so each of the school districts in the region, the health authorities in the region. If we think about health literacy, if we think about traditional literacy, we think about digital literacy, and we think about financial literacy. So we're having really good initial conversations with credit unions, health authorities, school districts, and the specific literacy partners to try to understand where we can build tables for strength. And up until about 2012, school districts actually carried the pen on this. So the province held funds for school districts specifically to have district literacy tables. And part of their capital funding wouldn't come through unless those tables were convened and had some outcomes and were effective and monitored. And my own view is that when that slipped, so did the literacy rates. And so maybe we can make it comfortable for the province to re-enter the space to support those kinds of committees to start up again.
Director Rice.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Ben. I just wanted to know, Ben, if you could explain to the directors some of the digital services, because I think that that was kind of glossed over rather quickly.
Yeah, for sure. What a growth area. So Toronto Public, Vancouver Public are at 50% and 40% of their usage is digital, respectively. We're at 38. So it is a national trend. It's a North American trend. It's actually worldwide also. So what we're seeing is folks that don't come into the space at all or prefer to borrow digitally. And it could be anything from courses in LinkedIn Learning, certifications, transitioning from one career to another, automotive mechanic initial training. It could be AutoCAD classes. It could be GIS classes, those sorts of things. The most popular thing, though, is podcasts and downloadable ebooks, talking books, those sorts of things. Those are for folks doing long commutes, like the one I did today. And you can get through books pretty quickly that way. Magazines. We have Canopy, which is the streaming video service, which is Netflix-like, but not so many of the latest movies, but there's a huge back catalog. And so we talk about our cards being minimally valued at $700 per year. That's just based on our physical circulation. And over the course of our strategic plan, we'll fully cost the value. We think it's in excess of thousands of dollars a year if you look at cost avoidance and return on investment. So those digital components are really, really critical for us. And it helps us, especially with things like Connected Coast and the involvement in the SRD in that we can really service equity increasingly as that fiber reaches out there. So many communities have been cut off from these services, and they're so central to the work that we're doing.
Thank you. Director Lott for the last question.
Another thing that struck me in your report in the budget section was you identified funding shortfalls for this district as compared to other jurisdictions with similar populations. How do you plan on making up those shortfalls? What's your approach? And are those shortfalls contributing to deterioration of your service?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think the point in those slides in the presentation were just about how we benchmark relative to other library service providers in BC. Being part of a system is really beneficial for a community. So standalone libraries, places like Squamish or Whistler or Lillooet, pay more for the service because they don't have the economy of scale. So the first thing is each of the communities within the SRD and the SRD itself benefit from being part of a regional. And we're going to continue to drive as much as we can the economy of scale. So that includes ongoing review of our staffing complement and all of our contracts and the services and the attention we get in the marketplace, which continues to improve in terms of our ability to procure at the best possible deal for this huge region. It's 42,000 square kilometers that we serve with about the population of Surrey. So it's challenging, but it's really beneficial for the membership. In terms of the funding, I think if I put on my board hat, the direction is to continue to be really, really, really compelling to the province. Spend more time reviewing, and we will be reviewing in the second quarter, our donations framework. What can we do to generate more fundraising, planned giving, all those sorts of things, especially around our capital campaigns. And then continue to pursue opportunities with philanthropics and trusts, and those sorts of things. And then the last component, I just spoke with our executive about this last week, is new legislation. So Bill 46, the housing omnibus introduces provision for amenity cost charges, including libraries. So for example, it may make sense if we're going to build a new facility that the local government think about Bill 46 as a means to that end and to continue to bring our costs down. So we'll just continue to be as creative as we can within the regulatory environment and understanding, I think we offer tremendous value, really understanding that all of our communities are struggling. So we need to keep as tight as we can within our operating environment.
Well, on behalf of the board, thank you very much for being here today.
Thanks again. I'll follow up through the chair with your question, and if there's any questions, by all means, reach out. Thank you.
Thanks again. Motion to receive report.
Receipt.
Thank you, Director
Second.
Punish. Director Mawhinney. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Number 2, Campbell River Early Years Council. Ann Boyd and Brenda Wagman. Good morning, ladies. Yeah. It depends.
Hello, I'm Ann Boyd, and I'm a member of the Early Years Council representing the Campbell River Literacy Association. And I have to say, Ben was speaking my words. We are an organization that really works for early literacy. And as part of the council, that's our function within that. And early literacy, early learning, we feel is the foundation to raising the literacy rates in the province.
Yes, and I'm Brenda Wagman. I'm coordinator of the Early Years Council and Family Network. And thank you for having us present today.
So we're here to introduce our council and what we do, provide an overview of our current priorities, and explore opportunities to work together with you and to answer any questions you may have. We hope to explore opportunities to work together with you. Now, the next slide shows who we are, and our council has representatives from 26 agencies in the community and in the region, and local and provincial governments. So we have built a council that is very cross the district, and we all come together once a month to exchange ideas on how to improve early learning. 18 years we've been a network. So our community, our vision has collaboration at the core of what we do, and it's why we're able to progress towards the healthy development of all young children. So it's not just the reading and writing, it's, as Ben mentioned, it's financial literacy, health literacy. All of those are elements of early learning.
So our research and our initiatives to raise awareness are truly collaboration in action. And this slide shows some examples. The State of the Child report was supported by a grant from the Campbell River Community Foundation. It expands on the Foundation's 2022 Vital Signs report by providing an in-depth look at young children and their families in our community. For the Child Care Space Needs report, we partnered with the City of Campbell River and School District 72. As we know, access to quality, affordable childcare remains a critical issue for our region, affecting how we're able to attract professionals and other workers who have young children, how we can attract them to locate here. For the Campbell River Children's Charter, we partnered with the City of Campbell River, School District 72, and Success by 6 to have 315 children, ages 3 to 12, give views on children's rights. These are some examples of our role in helping to support children and families in our community and region, as well as service providers through information, education, resources, and events. Our website, www.crfamilynetwork.ca, provides access to information about programs and services. It's augmented by our Helping Children in Campbell River Facebook page. That page provides current information on events, workshops, and other opportunities for families, as well as parenting tips. We find both our website and Facebook page are very popular with families in Campbell River and our neighboring communities, as Campbell River is a service hub. The annual Children's Health Fair is supported by the City of Campbell River, Pacific Care, the school district, our council, and the participation of many local service and program providers. The Healthy Babies poster series, we have one poster shown here, was created by our council with support from Campbell River and District Division of Family Practice and Campbell River Literacy Association.
Our training initiatives are primarily designed for early years professionals and services providers and often focus on Indigenous awareness and truth and reconciliation, which are priorities to bring to our early years community. Our training is typically made possible by grants, respectively in these cases from the Campbell River Community Foundation, the Early Childhood Educators Professional Development Bursary Fund, and the Federation of Community Social Services of BC. That me?
Yep.
So another main focus is to identify gaps and barriers in accessing services and programs and to advocate for solutions. To create our new strategic plan for 2024 through 2026, we sought input from many of our members and from families. As shown on the left, this resulted in a wide range of ideas on needs in our community and region, as well as what is important to sustain. We offer being a sounding board and participating in community consultations on issues affecting families with young children. Most recently, we were one of the groups consulted for the City of Campbell River's current project to update its Parks, Recreation, and Culture Master Plan.
So over the next few years, we are particularly focusing on increasing access to services and supports, improving children's readiness to be successful in learning, engaging or educating and engaging the broader community, strengthening Indigenous and non-Indigenous relationships, and strengthening our council and early years table. So all of our actions fall within these 5 priority focuses. As summarized on this slide, the impact of our work is wide-ranging. It's a service hub, as I mentioned, attracting and retaining young families, creating positive community culture, and improving the lives of our children and their life trajectory. To quote the Conference Board of Canada's 2017 report on investing in early childhood education and care, for every dollar spent on early childhood education programs, the economy gets about $6 worth of economic benefits down the line. And Nobel Prize-winning economist James Heckman states that investments in early childhood brings greater returns than investments in any other stage of education, leading to, and I quote, better outcomes in education, health, sociability, economic productivity, and reduced crime.
The benefits cannot be overstated. Please read this slide. What we would like you to know. The regional district is contributing in very important ways to the well-being of families with young children.
Sorry, excuse me. Your microphone there.
Sorry.
All good.
Shouldn't have turned it off. The regional district is contributing in important ways to the well-being of families with young children. Accessibility and inclusion focuses on people which include,
Yeah, we just really want to thank you for what you're doing, as this list is particularly relevant for us.
That's what I was supposed to do, right?
That's
Yes, we have partnered with Strathcona Gardens. We encourage our families to use the regional parks. We really appreciate all the things that we can have our community do within the regional district.
So what we would like to explore, we've highlighted on this slide and the next slide, collaboration and partnership opportunities, promoting reconciliation, improving health and well-being, and creating and sustaining robust economic conditions. We feel that's all very relevant to the work we're doing and that Strathcona Regional District is working on as well. So some examples from our new strategic plan that we hope to explore further with you as initiatives that will benefit families with young children in the region. A family's needs assessment in neighboring communities that would like to participate. A handout on local programs and services. Strategies to reduce wait lists for children's developmental needs, and a poster series on home health awareness and practices. So those are some examples that we feel we might be able to collaborate together in different ways.
And we welcome other ideas and opportunities to work together and give our youngest children a good start on their life journeys.
So thank you, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Directors. Director Von Esch.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you so much for the presentation. I really appreciate the work that you're doing and recognize the value of investing in children at the earliest stages. Could you just give us a quick summary on what you're seeing as the biggest barriers right now to this age group?
Well, wait lists are huge because there is a window of time for early childhood development. And if somebody is having a hearing problem or a speech problem or difficulty reading or understanding information, if we can't help them within that window of time, it's really difficult later on to make the difference they need, and it really affects them all their life. So that is one aspect. Poverty is very much, and we're so glad that the regional district's working on a poverty plan. And did you want to?
I would just add to that with the wait lists, we have children who enter school never having been assessed. And when they get into the school system, the wait lists just get bigger and more children. And they carry on. I've been working in schools with a program called Fostering Literacy. And we work with the most vulnerable learners. We volunteer and read with children who aren't read to at home. And we just really, really notice the struggle. And of course, the effects of COVID some of those children weren't in school for almost 2 years. And they're now in grade 3 and 4 where they're expected to read at a very different level, but they haven't got the foundation. So the school district is really struggling as well with catching kids up. So it's a very difficult situation for young children at this time.
And if I could just add, we're hoping to get some help with some research projects. One is, which are part of our strategic plan, and one is who is not accessing programs and services. Because we know that we see sort of the same families come to the many wonderful programs that are offered in our community and region. And again, as a service hub, we're having people come from Sayward and, Quadra and Cortez and Gold River. So we want to really understand who's not coming, what are the barriers to them coming. We've also heard through our interviews and surveys that families don't really know everything that's available to them. And so that's why we've put doing an inventory, in addition to having our website, we would like to have an inventory that's very easy to look through and see who they can contact for the services and programs here. So, that's another factor, not really knowing what's available to them. And then navigation barriers. So, the system isn't always simple and people get discouraged. And they're very already overwhelmed with their family responsibility, particularly single parents. So there's a lot of help. It's a time in a family's life where community support is critical to how well that family can do, and how well our families do are critical for the health of our community and region.
Thank you. I just wanted to note that we do have a regional grant and aid service where you can fill in an application form for a regional grant and aid that might be able to support some of these things you're working on. Thank you.
Anyone else? No? Ladies, thank you very much for your presentation this afternoon.
Thank you so much for having us here and listening to what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. On receipt,
Move receipt.
Director Van Esch, Director Lott. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Adoption of minutes. Director Lott. Director Wally. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Business arising, none. Public consideration, none. Notice of motion, none. Chair's report. I have a 45-minute report on Jenny Craig. No? Okay. No chair's report. Consent calendar, committee chair report that the draft minutes of the regular meeting of the Electoral Area Service Committee held March 13th, 2024 be received. Director Marwini.
Second.
Director Wally, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. First Nations Relations Committee, that the minutes of the First Nations Relations Committee held on March 13th be received.
Move receipt.
Director Wally, Director Lott, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. And there's staff reports. The ESA development permit, DP 4D23, that the reports from the CAO be received.
Move receipt.
Director Rice.
Second.
Director Mawhinney, discussion? Director Mawhinney?
Thank you, Chair. I had a question. I read the attached plan or the permit that was there. And I'm just curious what sort of leverage the Strathcona Regional District has to ensure that the streamside protection and enhancement area encroachment is mitigated. The permit says that restoration will be required and the follow-up report may be submitted. I was just curious if the report is not submitted to staff inspect to ensure compliance, or how is that? Is there an answer for that?
Mr. Yates?
Mr. Chairman, Meredith Starkey, I think, can respond to that.
Thank you, through the chair. Yes, with all DPs or development permits, there's a set of conditions that apply to those. If those conditions are not met, the DP could be revoked or rescinded. And yes, there is follow-up to ensure compliance.
So all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. And B, the environmentally sensitive area development permit, DP 4D23, as attached to the March 18, 2024 report from the CAO, be received. Moved.
And
And, did you miss it? Thank you. There we go. And that the corporate officer be authorized to issue the permit.
move recommendation.
Second.
Okay, we have Director Rice and Director Van Esch. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. Electoral Area D Stormwater Management. The report from the CA will be received.
Move receipt.
Director Rice, Director Wally, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B, that the regional district undertake the feasibility study to investigate the potential of establishing a stormwater management service for electoral area D.
Move recommendation.
Director Rice.
Second.
Director Mawhinney, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Open burning regulations for area D. The report from the CAO will be received.
Move receipt.
Director Rice. Director Wally, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B, that the report to examine regulations open burning in electoral area D be prepared for further consideration.
Move recommendation.
Director Rice.
Second.
Director Von Esch, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Capital funding for Cortez Island Community Hall, that the report from the CAO be received. Director Lott, Director Rice, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. And B, that the amendment bylaw for the prepared, that would be allowed to the regional district to provide capital funding for the community halls on Cortez Island.
So moved.
Chair, point of order. We haven't moved the motion for the pumper truck.
That's 5, not 4.
That's 5.
Oh, sorry.
We're on 4. This job is hard enough. You know,
Just playing with you.
who was the second? I don't know. I get so flustered now. Director Van Esch, Director Lott did. We'll say that. Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. Let's go to 5.
Okay.
K. That the report from the CAO be received.
Receipt.
Director Mawhinney, Director Wally, discussion.
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman, I
Yates?
think Sean Koopman can deal with any questions the board might have.
Mr. Kubin, please grab a seat, relax. Not yet. Okay, still on receipt? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. And B, that the board approve entering into a contract with Scott County, Kentucky for purchase of a 2023 Pierce Navistar pumper truck costing $287,000. It's a big difference when you say it that way, isn't it? To be paid from the Growing Communities Funds. Director Lott,
Second.
Director Von Esch, discussion. Questions for Mr. Koopman? None at all? Going once?
Sure, I have a question, just for clarity process to staff, if you just wouldn't mind sharing how this decision was made, or, why they chose that pumper truck or compared to buying a new one or something.
Yeah, through the chair to Director Von Esch. This was a pumper truck that the Cortez Island Fire Department had its eyes on, and mostly it's within the range of funding that we got through the Growing Communities Fund. There's always the balance of age versus price, but they feel this is the best value on the market for what they need to replace.
Thank you.
All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Thank you, Mr. Koopman. Q Cove Water Service Study. The report from the CEO will be received. Director Wally, Director Lott, second. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B, that the Q Cove Water Service Facility study be updated using information from Western Water Association Limited, report including the cost of adding up to 7 additional wells for the purpose proposed system? Director Lott, Director Mawhinney, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Short-term rentals, Victoria Area C, that the report from the CEO be received.
Move receipt.
Director Mawhinney. Director Wally, discussion. Director Mawhinney.
Thank you, Chair. And really, thank you to the staff for producing the short-term rental survey. It was happy news for me to see that such a good percentage of the residents weighed in on the survey. In addition to the survey, to hear from community members and respond to their questions, last Wednesday I held a community meeting. There were about 75 people that showed up to share their thoughts, which were wide-ranging. By a show of hands, the vast majority present were short-term rental operators, and less than a handful of renters were present. The main theme that I heard from folks recently and at the meeting was that quality of life on Quadra and that limiting off-island ownership may likely provide benefits. This was from neighbors of short-term rentals and short-term rental operators themselves. I did hear that the Residential Tenancy Act was frequently raised as a reason why people don't want to rent their homes long-term. And I also have heard from 3 property owners who live off-island and enjoy their home on Quadra as a family getaway, with short-term rentals filling in gaps and funding its upkeep. And those folks were not in favor of Area C opting in. Quadra Island thrives on tourism. Short-term rentals provide valuable benefits to our community, and they're making it possible for people to live here who might otherwise not be able to, whether it's helping with their mortgage or supplementing retirement income. Also, Area C is experiencing a housing crisis. There are too many islanders working island jobs and living in inadequate or precarious housing. RVs as quasi-permanent homes for low-wage island workers are all too prevalent. There is no easy answer here. There is no silver bullet to solve housing, and if there was, it wouldn't be a crisis. I truly empathize with those who will be affected by this decision. Based on the results of the survey and the many interactions, emails, messages, and community meeting responses I've had, I will be moving A, that Area C opts in.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? No? Sorry, Director Von Esch?
I think just to add on to that, having Cortez gone through a similar process, I think there's a couple of things that came out of further investigation with the province that impacting folks that are trying to run short-term rentals in their secondary or third, fourth property. Two big things I think it's good for everybody to know is, one, people can still do short-term rentals in these properties. They just can't publicly list it. So people who've had a property on Quadra Cortez for the last 20 years that rent to their family and friends or have an email list of people that they rent to, that can still continue. This act just takes away their ability to advertise publicly through the popular platforms that we're aware of. And then secondly, which I think is a great part of the act, is that if you have a full-time renter on the property, that full-time renter can act as the host for the short-term rental. So that's kind of a way for these property owners to kind of incentivize them to still be able to continue doing short-term rentals, but also provide a rental, which I think when the initial choice of these decisions was being made, there was an alarm, and I think these two things kind of take away a lot of those concerns. Obviously, people are still going to be impacted, but I support Quadra's decision here, and I think it's a good move for Cortez as well. Thank you.
Okay. Still on receipt?
May I ask a follow-up question? I thought it was quite interesting. I didn't know that rule. So if you have a short-term rental in an area, if you can meet the principal residence requirement by having at least one long-term residential tenant on that property?
There's details.
Yeah, there's details, but if that long-term renter is willing to be the host. So when the directory, so everybody in BC who has a short-term rental is going to have to sign up for the BC registry come November, and if the host on that property, if they're willing to be the host for the short-term rental, that allows them to do it. So it's not just having a long-term renter; it's that renter also needs to be the host. Yeah.
Another question for staff would be, if an area opts into this or doesn't opt in, can that be adjusted later? Can you opt back out in a subsequent period? Yeah, okay.
You can, when you opt in by March 31st of any year, it doesn't take effect until November 1st. And there's an opportunity by March 31st of any year to change what you want to do.
Staff?
Mr. Chairman, Meredith can speak to any issues the board might have or questions.
Thank you through the chair on that question. Director Mawhinney has answered it correctly. So yes, the opt-in is an annual decision, so for sure.
Okay, still on receipt? All in, oh,
Yep. It's just on the anticipation of the follow-up motion. Is that for electoral areas only on the follow-up?
no, it is not. It is. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
My motion or the receipt motion?
The receipt. Go ahead.
I have a follow-up, Chair. I would like to move that Electoral Area C opt in to the Short-Term Rental Accommodations Act principal residence requirement.
Director Lott, second. Discussion? Director Sinnott?
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. So my question is, if the main basis is because we have a shortfall of adequate housing on the affected area, is there any baseline and measurement we're going to do to see whether this actually has impact positively or negatively? Because I think if we're going to make this decision, we better know whether we're actually making the right decision.
Director Mawhinney?
Thank you. I think that, well, we have some pretty good data from our housing needs assessment that was done in 2022 by each electoral area. And I believe that, and Meredith could speak to this, but I believe that a new housing needs assessment is going to be completed soon. So that would, I think as housing needs assessments are completed, there will be more data to show the change. And further, I think to your point about this changing the amount of long-term rentals, I think that that may be something which occurs, but I do think that there are other reasons to opt in as well. I think that with all municipalities having a population of 10,000 and over being mandatorily opted in unless they have over a 3% vacancy rate, and places like Tofino choosing to opt in, I think that there may be investment capital that's looking for a place to land, and in a desirable area like Quadra Island, which landed next to Antarctica on Forbes 2020's list of great islands, I think that further pressures on property prices and long-term housing availability would be brought to bear if we were not opted in.
Director Rice?
Thank you, Chair. I know when I was taking a look at opting in and opting out, I was quite concerned with the primary resident requirements. Give you a prime example, I know that there are folks that still hang on to mom and dad's house. It's not their primary resident. It's in a beautiful location. It would be a shame for us to have opted in and see those things get taken away because, again, if the property owner is not willing to rent it out long-term, then they actually need to change the use on that property. The minute they change the use on the property, that triggers a Revenue Canada GST payback on the assessed value of the house. So all of a sudden, it starts looking like very expensive propositions. And not only that, I was trying to get more information on what is the status of tourism. We know that through COVID, there's been quite a bit of damage done to the tourism system. I was able to reach out to a few of the fishing guides. They want to see long-term rentals and typically, short-term rentals, and typically the people that come out and use those kind of services aren't interested in using a room. They're interested in using an entire premise. So again, I was quite concerned, and I'm still concerned, but I think that because we didn't opt in, It gives us an opportunity now to go back and take a look at our own zoning and our own bylaws, and let's see, what can we do? And then we'll address this again next year. So that was my position on it. Thank you.
Great. Director Lanyon?
I think I really appreciate staff doing the survey. I know there's no way to know if the response was biased in any way, but it did clearly show that Area C residents would like to opt in. It's nice to know that we can opt back out if it proves to be a mistake to have opted in. I think there's a certain amount of autonomy that should be extended to the area directors for decisions like this. So if that's what Area C director wants and has done the work behind it, then I would support it. But in general, I think the correct approach is not a ban. The correct approach is a cap that is sensitive to the tourism needs of the area in particular. And this is from I got the idea from an article in the Harvard Business Review, so I'm not creating this from scratch. But one of the examples they gave was parts of San Diego have a specific bylaw that caps the number of short-term rentals at about 30%. And then you'll have many other communities that are less tourism-oriented that will be at 2%. So you kind of choose the areas that will be tourism-focused and the areas that won't. What's being done here is it's a provincial hammer, and it's a really blunt instrument, and it is very damaging to a lot of people. It will create a lot of animosity and distrust of higher levels of government because people did invest their life savings in some cases and made their retirement switch the use of their property to short-term rental. And like Director Rice said, if they switch it back, they'll have a 5% GST bill on the value of their property at that time. And so it's devastating, like really devastating for a lot of people. And it shouldn't be like that. Like this sort of thing shouldn't be so blunt. It should be phased. So I don't like it in general, but I'm staying out of it.
Thank you. Director Sinnott?
Yes, thank you. Going back to my concern with respect to whether it's actually going to reach the effects that you want and measuring it, I am more inclined to be in favor of this. We have a sunset clause on this particular opt-in, and it requires us to come back in a year or a year and a half when we have the appropriate data to reauthorize it. But I'm also listening to what Director Lanyon says. It makes me very nervous to proceed right now without having a better understanding of the impacts on the various people. This may take people completely by surprise if they find out they're going to be facing several $1,000s in tax implications that they did not anticipate, and their opinion may have been very different in terms of the survey. I'm just really not comfortable at this point.
Okay, we're going to call the question. Oh, Director Lanyon?
I just wanted to say, it's already gone through for Area B, I believe, at the last meeting. What did we do with Area A? Is it in? Nothing, okay. Okay. So we'd be inconsistent now applying that logic since we've approved Area B. I hear what you're saying.
Okay, we're going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed? We have 2 opposed, Director Sinnott and then Director Rice. The motion is carried. Number 8, Quadra Island Liquor License Amendment. The report from the CAO be received.
Move receipt or second?
That was Director Wally and Director Mawhinney. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Cedar Creek, Upper Campbell.
Mr. Chairman, there are some options for the board to
I
consider.
apologize. Option A or B, folks?
I'd like to move option A.
Oh, I would like to move option B.
Oh, okay. And Quadra,
If you're going to,
I'll defer. Just like that.
Okay, we have 2 options. Go ahead, Director Mawhinney.
Well, the application is for structural changes to a license which already exists. According to the application, the applicant is hoping to have their application completed by early May 2024. I think in light of the fact that the license already exists and the timeliness of the application, I'm interested in moving B. which is that the regional district will not be providing comments. That's sort of how I feel about it. I think that if we start doing a community consultation at this point, it's likely to really impact the operator's ability to potentiate or use that license this summer.
Okay, so in short, your option B.
I'll second that.
And in long. And Director Vonish is second. Further discussion? Director Dahl.
I'd just like to ask the director how she thinks that will be taken when it gets to the liquor board. I know the advice that we received at times at City of Campbell River, considering this stuff, and having no reply is equivalent to not supporting. So it's something that I would consider before I say I'm making no comment, which is the same as saying I don't support it.
Okay, Director Wally, then Director Mawhinney.
Yeah, just in response to Director Dahl. Over the 16 years I've sat here, I think without exception, this is the response we've always given to the liquor board, that we were without comment. Didn't stop anything from being approved.
Director Mawhinney.
Well, I hadn't considered that consideration. I'm not clear, and maybe staff could make it more clear to me, because this is the first time something like this has come since I've been at this table. Is the board, are we the only opportunity that, like, if there was a new license application, are we the venue or the way that community consultation is done, or does the Liquor and Cannabis Regulating Board also do their own outreach?
Okay, we're going to go to Mr. Yates and then to Director Rice.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So in the Liquor Board regulations, there are two options. One is for the local government to undertake a consultation process, in which case they have some choices in terms of how they do that and what the timelines would be. The second choice is to opt out of that process, in which case the Liquor Control Board, or the Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Board, I should say, will decide if they are going to conduct community consultation themselves. And they may not, or they may, but that will be up to them at that point.
Thank you, Tom.
Director Rice.
Thank you, Chair. I know for myself, when I took a look at this, I thought option A was the way to go. And the reason I did is that quite often when these things go in place, whether it be, a new bar, new neighborhood bar, whatever, the public is caught kind of blindsided by it. And then they reach out to local government and go, why did you do that? Why did you approve this? This seemed to be an opportunity to engage the public, get a sense of what they would like to do, find out if they are offended by it. And maybe that's something that hasn't been done here forever, but maybe it's something that we should be doing. So I would agree with the comments from Director Dahl that, again, I think option A might be the better way to go.
Director Lott.
One of the things that was influential in my decision on this issue is that we do have revisions on the timeline too, and that we can go longer if we need more time to do the community consultation. It didn't seem to be a hard date, so that if we indicated that we wanted to reach out to the public, we did want to have their input, we wanted to know what the community felt, we could extend the deadline if we needed a longer period of time. We're not up against a hard deadline.
Director Mawhinney.
Thank you, everybody, for your comments. I think that in this case, it's the liquor license is already operating in the same location, and they're building a new structure or adding on to the structure in some way. It's I believe it's been operating for 12 years on the golf course already, so I don't think that the neighborhood is going to be shocked, but maybe the board will be the ones that decide whether we should do the community consultation or not.
Okay, so the motion is on B. Calling the question. All in favor? Opposed? We have Director Sinnott, Director Rice, Director Lott is opposed. Director Lanyon is opposed. Director Kerr, there you are. And Director Chapman is opposed. So it looks like the motion is defeated. Okay.
I'll
Director
move
Lott?
option A.
Subsequent, I'd like to move option A.
Second.
Second is Director Rice. Discussion? All in favor of A? Opposed? Director Wally is opposed. Anyone else? Sorry? And Director Mulwiney. You got company this time. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Motion is carried. Okay, number 9. Cedar Creek, Upper Campbell Lake, electrification, that the report from the CEO be received.
Move receipt.
Director Rice, Director Lott, second. Discussion? Director Rice?
First of all, I do want to thank the CEO for helping me on this. Much appreciated, Mr. Yates. One question that I had before I get into my little ramble here is that with respects to the gas tax money, did I understand the report correctly that Area D's amount is going up by $450 each year?
Yes, that is the story we're getting from the UBCM.
And how long is that going to continue?
I'm going to defer those questions to our Director of Finance,
Okay.
who's better able to respond than I am.
Yeah, so as far as we know, that's the amount going forward. The contract adjusts every 4 years.
Okay, thank you. When I did have an opportunity to speak to the residents not too long ago, I think I was up there about 3 weeks ago, the residents have been extremely displeased with the way Hydro has behaved on this. And I don't want to say too much to badmouth Hydro, but they've been trying since 2010 to get Hydro. This morning, I sat down and gave the old report a big read, and to go back and take a look at some of the information from 2011, it was quite interesting to see it again. Even though I had browsed through it briefly the first time, I paid a little bit more attention. And what I find quite amazing is that back in the day, Hydro actually came out with 5 opportunities and 5 different pricing models. And it seems like at this point in time, they've only come back with one option. It is, if I compared the 2011 reports to this report, this is one of the more expensive options, and it was even more expensive in 2011. And certainly, I don't know how they expect 25 residents, to come up with $5.8 million. The financing on it would just be outrageous. That's not to say that it's time to, set this aside. I think that that's been the problem, is that when BC Hydro stopped talking to the residents up there, that was done rather abruptly. The director that sat in this chair did nothing to continue that conversation. The residents have been wanting this since, like I said, 2010. That didn't change when I went out and knocked on doors in 2022, and it hasn't changed now. They would still like to explore Hydro. I don't know what the next steps are, but I do believe that there are still opportunities out there, and I think that they need to be fully explored. I think that as a board, it would be fantastic if we can figure out how to hold Hydro more accountable. They have an obligation to supply power, regardless of whether or not it's a small customer or a big customer. They still have that obligation to supply power. And I find it amazing that this morning I was reading something else, and we were talking about, what are the rights of people? Well, the rights are housing, clean water, and believe it or not, electricity. The people up at Upper Campbell Lake also have an issue getting clean water because it would be helpful if they had electricity. So figure that. So I'm hoping that between the directors, we can figure out something that we can do. I mean, I'm happy to go back and lobby the province. I still think that there's programs out there. But I'm looking for a way to really hold BC Hydro's feet to it and see if we can hold them accountable, because they've really dropped the ball on this.
Director Wally.
Far be it from me to appear negative, but I don't see how people can move out into the boonies and then all of a sudden demand, now we want hydro to supply electricity to us. I think if you live out of town and you want to live off the grid, that's your choice, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you can't expect the rest of the world to pick it up and deliver it to you.
Okay, so on receipt, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. Director Rice, you have a subsequent?
Yes. Did you have it on the board?
There's Mr. Chapman.
So the subsequent there is that staff prepare an update for the Cedar Creek and Upper Campbell Lake residents on the current status of the investigation into the electrification project.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Director Van Esch. Discussion. Director Dahl.
You said that the residents aren't able to pay 5-point-some million, but what are they willing to pay? Like, if they're willing to pay nothing, are we really just wasting our time?
No, they're certainly willing to pay, and there's still enormous support. And I think the part that I'm really having a struggle, and this is why I say I think that, you know, somehow we need to go back and have a bigger conversation, a more stern conversation with BC Hydro, is that back in the day when they were exploring this, Strathcona Lodge was quite interested in this. If there was an opportunity to bring Phase 3 power, that would have benefited them quite a bit. The documentation that is there showed a fair amount of reasons why BC Hydro should have continued on with this project. At least keep them engaged somehow. They haven't done that. You know, this is, sorry, money's dried up, bye, don't call us. And that's been how the residents have felt. So there is, when I was up there 3 weeks ago, everybody up there is interested. The lodge is kind of sitting back waiting because they've just spent a fair amount of money updating their own power plant. And again, you know, I hear Director Wally, if you're going to live remote, but also keep in mind too that, you know, the Strathcona Lodge has been a very prominent vacation place, and they haven't been able to attract BC Hydro either. You know, so there's something wrong with this, and I think that they can certainly do better.
Director Lanyon.
Sure. I was just having a quick look. I didn't give this a full read, I apologize, but maybe you can elaborate. There's an October 13th, 2023 BC Hydro letter, and then they say estimated construction cost 5.615 million, less BC Hydro's contribution to the project based on Section 8 of the electric tariff. They put 0 because they don't know how much that will be. Yep. Is that right? Yep. I feel like that's key data. Because you know, the per house price is about $200,000, but you know, if that what do you call it, Section 8 tariff refund thing, if that was 150, like, we're within striking distance. So we just need to know that.
Again, it's been very frustrating to talk to Hydro because I don't seem to get a whole lot of answers. And thank God I have a good friend that is able to advise me on this. So he's been able to give me a fair amount of background information. The point that I'm trying to make is that the current estimate that they have done was the highest one back in the day, other than the costing that they did to bring hydro in from Gold River. But there were cheaper alternatives. In fact, there were 4 of them that back in the day were under $1 million, where this one was to bring hydro in from Argonaut Road was 1.8 million. So that's the one that they seem to be pushing. And that is, again, I'm just trying to figure out, are there other opportunities? And I seem to be led by my good friend that there are other opportunities that haven't been explored, and we need to bring hydro back to the table and explore those.
I think it's worth the board's time to look at this from the sense that if, that area is supplied with power, there's maybe a lot of other good recreational opportunities that would open up to the communities that, spend time at the lake there, so.
Yeah, and I think those are all mentioned in the report. It's a bit of reading, but towards the back of the report, they really did break it down, and they said that, if there was power, then the seasonal people would spend more time there. It's too bad that Director Jack's not here. We heard how much of a difference it's made for his community to get hydro. I mean, think about it. Hydro is pretty critical just to keeping a refrigerator cold. So.
Even at this point in time, without hydro, no possibility for cell phone coverage. So even as a safety mechanism, it's not in place unless power is at this point.
We're talking also then an extension of cell phone coverage on the Upper Island highways.
Well, I've already reached out to the MLA to see if that's an option, because again, the province made a big thing that they're trying to get cell phone coverage and high-speed internet through it all over the province. So, if you're going to come out and publicly say that with a bunch of directors in the room, well, what are we doing? How come we can't seem to get attached to these projects?
Okay, so if I can paraphrase what we've talked about, we've been given the highest cost option, which appears to be a deterrent move because they don't want to look at it. We don't know what the Section 8 electric tariff refund will be, and there are secondary benefits like better cell phone coverage and improved usage of those recreational areas that should be looked at. Okay.
Okay, Director Wally, then Director Vanesh, and then then Director Mawhinney, then we'll call the question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, just a quick comment on cell phone coverage. Area A has lots of hydro. We have no cell phone coverage, can't get it. So the two aren't connected. And I'll just mention number B. Well, if you put a tower, they could be. And then number two is, I grew up my entire life in Ontario on a farm. We had no electricity. We did just fine.
Director.
One of the things I do hear, Director Rice, I think that's maybe important for this whole board is, what is our relationship with BC Hydro and how do we actually address some of these things? And can we get them in here to, for us to ask some, important questions that are key for our district? And just on a side note on Cortez, Clahoose First Nation has struggled with BC Hydro to get phase 3 and have just, have opted to pay for it themselves, because they just haven't seen a way forward. So, this is a discussion that with BC Hydro that I'm certainly interested in having as well.
Director Mawhinney.
Thank you, Chair. My comment is more on the motion that's on the floor here, which is that staff prepare an update for the residents of the area on the current status of the investigation. And my question is, isn't that essentially what this report is? And couldn't the director take information from this report or share this report with those residents rather
Mr.
than
Yates.
have staff be writing one? Or maybe that's reasonable.
Mr. Chairman, I certainly believe that today's report is part of that, for sure, but it doesn't really speak to what's next. And I think those are the options maybe that the director would like to have a discussion about.
So the motion that's on the board, Director Sinnott.
Yeah, I keep sitting here going, okay, you guys, there's a BC Utilities Commission, there's other processes that hopefully staff will investigate pushing forward, because you can become a royal pain in hydros at, operations by intervening and doing other things to ensure compliance. And it's going to take some expertise, and maybe staff haven't got that expertise, and we may have to get a staff recommendation for some funding if we need to do that further investigation. I'm just saying, having done regulatory work in my past, there's nothing more responsive of an organization when the Utilities Commission says, what's going on, I've got a complaint. They jump super high, fast.
Director Rice, and then we'll call the question.
Okay. Can you, to Director Sinnott, can you help us craft a motion that would address that?
Well, I think I'm waiting back to hear from staff if they're going to do an update as to what options they might want to investigate further, and then we can consider.
Mr. Chairman, if I might suggest, if the motion currently in front of the board passes, then I think the opportunity exists to have further dialogue with the residents who may at this point say, you know what, let's just not bother. Or they may say, we are committed to this, we want to see it through to the end. And then I think there's an opportunity to
Bring it back.
to polish the rifles, to bring it back and see which way the board wants to go with that.
Okay, so all in favor? Opposed? What about the gentleman online?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I
Nope.
think the vote's been had, so I think that's time for that has passed. Thank you.
Right, thank you. With both, the motion is carried. Okay, I've got 5 minutes to 2. We'll take a 15-minute recess. I don't have the hammer thing. We are on number 10. Okay, we are on number 10. We got everybody back.
We have not.
Do we have everybody back online?
Yeah, we have a quorum.
Web quorum, there's Director Davis. Okay, number 10, commenceable meeting for electoral area directors.
We received the CEO's report.
Thank you. Director Wally, do I have a second?
Second.
Director Marwini, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. And B, that amendment for the bylaw be prepared that would expand the list of compensable meetings for electoral areas in accordance with the March 15th, 2024 report from the CAO.
So moved.
Director Mawhinney,
Second.
Director Von Esch. Further discussion? Director Rice?
Thank you, Chair. When this matter came up to EASC, I didn't support it there, and now that I actually see the list of board meetings, I don't support it again. It seems that some of these meetings are only going to benefit one electoral area director. So again, I'll be voting no on this.
Thank you. Director Wally?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, they don't benefit me whatsoever, but I am in favor of it. And the beauty about these things is, first of all, they're only funded by electoral areas. Second of all, if you don't approve, you don't have to make the claim. It's voluntary. So if you don't think it's appropriate, don't claim for it.
Okay, still on B. Director Rice?
After this motion, I do have a subsequent.
Okay. Director Sinnott?
Yes, thank you. I know that even though we don't vote on it, it made the newspaper looking like it was all of us. And I just want to make it sure it's clear that it is not the municipal directors. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, all in favor of B? And who we missing? Okay, and one opposed? And opposed? Director Rice? Thank you. Motion is carried. Director Rice has a subsequent?
Yes, thank you, Chair. My motion is that for the 2025 budget talks with the 4 electoral area directors, that staff prepare a report based on 2023 and 2024 meetings and conventions and who attended them and who billed for them. Thank you.
Okay, do I have a second? Is this still just area directors?
Yes, I think it would be. Yes.
Okay, that'd be appropriate. Do I have a second? No second, no motion. No subsequent, moving on. Number 11, Seward Valley Solid Waste Collection Contract. From Director Wally.
Second.
Director Von Esch. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried.
I move that the chair and corporate officer be authorized to execute. I move that the chair and corporate officer be authorized to execute the proposed modification agreement with Waste Management Corporation for a 2-year extension to the Seward Valley Solid Waste Collection Contract.
Second.
Director Von Esch, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Number 12, Inclusive Regional Governance Initiative. The report from the CAO be received?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
These next 3 sections on honorariums and Indigenous rights and so on, we have, I'm not sure how I can talk about this in public forum, but we have something in camera that deals with these. I think they should be moved into in camera is the motion I'd like to make if we could move these.
So
in camera.
12, 13, and 14?
Yeah.
Mr. Yates?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure that 14 would intersect with that particular.
All right,
item.
just 12 and 13
12 and
then.
13, I think one
Okay.
could make that argument.
So we have a motion that 12 and 13 be moved to in camera.
Second.
Director Rice, discussion? Are you looking for in camera right now or the in camera portion when we get to it?
Yes.
I'm sorry?
To move these in camera, I mean, when we do the adoption of the agenda in camera, we could.
Just
move
add
these if
them
you
to
wish.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing one opposed. Director Chapman? Okay, motion is carried. 12 and 13 are being moved to in camera. Okay, 14, Indigenous Engagement, Emergency Disaster Management Act. Director Lott?
Second.
Director Von Esch, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. B.
Mr. Chairman, Sean Koopman could speak to this if you wish.
B. Mr. Koopman?
Through the chair to the regional board. What you have in front of you is a report approved by the First Nations Committee 2 weeks ago, and the intention is to pool our funding together with the 4 villages, Nuchatlat First Nation and Moahad Muchalat First Nation, to hire a 3-year term position at minimum, hoping to bring in more grant funding to keep that going, but an Indigenous engagement coordinator for the emergency services program to help us meet the new requirements under the Emergency and Disaster Management Act.
Any questions for Mr. Koopman? On B. Director Sinnott?
Yeah, is there a particular reason for these particular nations? Is there a higher risk area, or is there other ones that could be included later?
Through the chair to Director Sinnott, I have reached out to all municipalities and First Nations in the regional district asking if they would like to be a part of this. The list right there, and I believe that list doesn't include the village of Sayward. The list is the ones that said, yes, we'd like to be a part of this.
Director Mulwini?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Sean, for this report. The position that's being considered is regional in scope, and there are some items in the responsibilities that speak to providing training. Would these be provided for within the funding allotted, or would additional funds be required? And would the training indeed be provided regionally or within the areas which are signatories to the agreement?
Through the chair to Director Malwini. Question 1, this funding would only be used to hire the staff position, but we would seek funding through the Indigenous Cultural Safety and Cultural Humility Grant in November to provide the training the same way we've done in the past. The position would be regional in scope, so this, like myself, Bonnie, and Casey, we're here for all communities, so even the communities that aren't contributing funding still get the help. Sorry, what was the third question?
Yeah, would the training be provided regionally or?
Microphone, please.
Yes, the training would be provided regionally.
Okay, still on B. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Thank you, Mr. Koopman. Oh, well, maybe you stick around for this one, too. Sorry?
I'm moved to the chair.
Excellent. When you refer to chair, you mean, when you, yeah. I appreciate that. Thanks. Grant opportunity, disaster risk reduction, climate adaptation. Report from the CAO will be received.
Received.
Thank you. Director Wally? Second. Director Mulwini, discussion? All in favor?
Hello.
Oh, sorry, there's somebody up there?
Yeah.
Director Davis.
Was waving my hand manually too. I just want to confirm with Sean the category 2 material benefit for TASIS includes new Tiger dams?
Through the chair to Director Davis, yeah, the category 2 would include 2 trailers of Tiger dams that are a regional resource staged here in Campbell River, but able to deploy regionally.
Okay, so there'll be nothing here on a permanent basis then?
Correct.
meaning TASIS. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, still on A, on receipt. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B in its entirety. Director Lott,
Second.
Director Rice. Do I have discussion? No? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Thank you, sir. No, not yet. No, there's more. Emergency Support Service Grant Award. Report from the CAO be received.
Move receipt.
Director Marwini. Director Wally, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B, that the 2024-2028 financial plan be amendment to incorporate $420,000 from the 2024 Emergency Support Service Grant to fund activities identified in the January 19th, 2024 report from the Chief Administrative Officer.
So moved.
Director Mawhinney. Director Lott, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. Island Health Community Wellness, report from the CAO be received.
Move receipt.
Second.
Director Morini, Director Vonish, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B, that the application for the 2024 Island Health Community Wellness Grant Program be supported activities identified in the March 22nd, 2024 report from the CAO be approved, and that the regional district commit to overall management of the grant if the application is successful. Director Lott?
Second.
Director Rice? Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Vancouver Island Climate Leadership Steering Committee, the report from the CAO be received.
Second.
Director Wally, Director Rainey, discussion. Director Mawhinney.
Thank you, Chair. It's nice to see this item on the agenda again. I hope that directors noticed that the item I submitted, which appears under member reports later in the agenda, is related to this item. I did try last week to get a more current update. However, the person I was in contact with was on spring break. So this board has made climate resilience a strategic priority. Joining this coastal committee is an excellent first step and will be beneficial in sharing knowledge, successes, and best practices in areas where joint advocacy may be well suited. The Strathcona Regional District Board providing a regional grant to the Climate Leadership Steering Committee group and joining at the staff and elected levels is a signal to our communities and the coastal region that yes, our climate resilience strategic priority is meaningful. We'll also say that we supported a $15,000 regional grant in aid for Canada Day and Campbell River, and I think this $8,400 grant in aid is an equally appropriate use of funds.
Thank you. On receipt, anyone else? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, oh, you're opposed, Director Mawhinney?
I'm sorry, I'm just getting ready to make subsequent.
Oh, I see, anticipation, got it. Motion is carried, go ahead.
Well, I believe that the motion that was made at the last meeting was deferred, if I'm correct. So can we make the same motion again? Is that right, Tom, or?
That's correct.
Mr. Chairman, the motion was deferred. I believe it's not necessarily to make the same motion again. It's simply a matter of voting on it.
Oh.
Lifting it from the table and voting on it
How does one exactly do that? Have we already done that?
by making the motion to do that, I think.
Oh, making a motion, okay. May I make a motion to lift the motion from the table as discussed in the report?
And Director Wally, second. Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. And then to vote on the other motion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. Number 19, municipal service agreement, Gold River. Let the report from the city. Thank you. Director Wally,
Second.
Director Von Esch, discussion. Director Mawhinney,
I have a question. Who would be the one answering the question about the agreement? Would it be
shoot.
Tom, maybe? Okay. Well, from the included list of historic invoices to Gold River, it looks like building inspection services is the most commonly used service. I'm curious, in the event that the municipality of Gold River were to require services from the regional district in a department which may not at that time have extra capacity, for instance, engineering services, and engineering services maybe had a full plate with other projects, for instance, how would that be responded to? Is there a triage framework to ensure that the regional district is in fact more fully utilizing its own resources and not taking time from established priorities?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, the regional district has the opportunity to decline work on behalf of not just Gold River, but other municipalities with which we have entered into these similar types of contracts. So it is subject to staff availability and capacity.
Thank you for clarifying that for me.
Okay, so still on receipt. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. 20. Sorry?
Can I
Mr.
move option A?
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize.
Second.
Do we have discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. Okay, so 20. Request for financial assistance, Stewart Island Community Association.
Move receipt of the report.
Director Wally, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B, that the board approve a grant for Stewart Island Community Association in the amount of $1,500. The cost associated with liability insurance to be paid from electoral area. C, grant and aid budget.
So moved.
Director Mawhinney.
Second.
Director Von Esch, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. Request for economic development funding, Quadra Island Chamber of Music Society, that the report from the CAO be received.
So moved.
Second.
Director Von Esch, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. That the board approve an economic development grant for Quadra Island Chamber Music Society, the amount of $1,500 to assist with the cost associated with the 2024 concert series, paid by electoral area C Economic Development Service budget.
So moved.
Director Mawhinney, Director Von Esch, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. Financial assistance request from the Saybrook Parent Advisory Council. The report from the CAO be received.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried.
I move the board approve a grant to the Saybrook School Parent Advisory Council in the amount of $800 to assist with costs associated with the 2024 bike rodeo, paid from the electoral area A grant and aid budget.
Second?
Second.
Director Mawhinney, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none,
Mr. Chair, I apologize that I forgot to turn on my speaker, but if Mr. Yates got that, that'd be good enough.
Mr. Yates has got it.
Sorry.
He didn't have a speaker on.
Oh, didn't.
Yes, we captured the motion. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. Thank you. Okay, request for financial assistance. The Mountain Avian Rescue Society, MARS, report from the CAO be received.
Move receipt.
Discussion? Sorry, second.
Second.
Director Von Esch, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. B, that the board approve a grant for the Mountain Area Avian Rescue Society in the amount of $12,000 to assist in the costs associated with operating rehabilitation and educational programs to be paid by the regional grant and aid budget.
So moved.
Director Mawhinney.
Second.
Director Rice, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Q, bylaws, no, O. Need new glasses. Bylaw number 537, Victoria Area C rezoning. Report from the CAO be received.
Move receipt.
Director Mawhinney, Director Von Esch, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. And bylaw 537 be given third reading.
So moved.
Director Mawhinney. Director Wally, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. Bylaw 537B, Quadra Island rezoning bylaw 1990, amendment number 147 be reconsidered, finally passed and adopted.
So moved.
Director Mawhinney, Director Von, pardon me, what's your last name again? Wally, right, that's right. Yeah, sorry, slipped me for a sec there. Director Wally, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. Bylaw 541, Seaward Fish and Game hatchery funding. The report from the CAO be received. Thank you. Director Mawhinney, second. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried.
I'd move that bylaw number 541, being Sayward Fish and Game Association Hatchery Funding Agreement, authorization bylaw 2024, be now reconsidered, finally passed and adopted.
Second.
Director Rice, second. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. Bylaw 542, Strathcona Garden Service Amendment, that the report from the CEO be received. Director Lott. and then
Second.
Director Mawhinney. So was that, wow, sorry, Director Sinnott. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B, the bylaw 542, being a bylaw to amend the recreation facility service provided with electoral area D to Campbell River, City of Campbell River, now be introduced and read for the first time. This is where we get a motion and then a second. Thank you. Director Dahl, do we have a second?
Second.
Director Rice, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. C, that the rules be suspended for bylaw 542, be given second and third reading.
Move recommendation.
Director Rice,
Second.
Director Sinnott, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. D, that bylaw 542 be authorized and approved with the basic consent of the participants in accordance with S.349 of the Local Government Act.
Move recommendation.
Second.
Director Rice, Director Sinnott. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. Bylaw 543, Black Creek, Oyster Bay water well funding, pardon me. Report from the CEO be received.
Move receipt.
Director Rice, Director Wally, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. That bylaw 543, being Black Creek, Oyster Bay water well funding agreement, authorization bylaw 2024, now be reconsidered, finally passed and adopted.
Move recommendation.
Director Rice, Director Wally, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. Bylaw 544, board meeting procedures, that the report from the CAO be received. Director Wally?
Second.
Director Von Esch? Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B, that bylaw 544, being a bylaw to govern and proceedings of the regional the regional board and its committees, now be introduced and read for the first time.
Second.
Director Mawhinney, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. C, that the rules be suspended for bylaw 544, be given second and third reading.
So moved.
Director Wally, second. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. D, that bylaw 544 be returned for further consideration following notification to the public in accordance with the Local Government Act.
Second.
Director Wally, Director Rice, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. Bylaw 545 and 546, electoral area A, repeal. Report from the CO, please.
Receive.
Director Mawhinney, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. And that bylaw 545, being the bylaw to repeal the Gold River zoning bylaw, now be introduced and read for the first time. Director Wally, Director Mawhinney, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. And that bylaw 545 being given second reading. Director Wally?
Second.
Director Mawhinney, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. And D, that bylaw 546 being a bylaw to repeal the Fair Harbor zoning bylaw, now introduced and read for the first time.
Second.
Director Rice, second. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. E, that bylaw 546 be given second reading. Director Wally, Director Mawhinney, discussion? Thank you, that makes it much easier, except now you got to move your cup. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Seven, on number 6. So as outlined in the report, there are some options in terms of where the public hearings are to be held for these bylaws. And I'm sure, having read the report, the board will be aware that the choices are either in the communities that would be affected, for which I understand there's extremely limited interest to properties because of land settlements, et cetera, or alternatively in Campbell River. So that's the question before the board.
I move that the, what's it called?
So, Mr. Chairman, just looking at direction right now, staff would have to bring back a report with all the details as to where, when, and et cetera.
Okay,
So
so I
really
move
just looking
that
for
staff bring
direction.
back a report to clarify where the public hearing is going to be held.
Second.
Further, just go ahead, Mr. Reeds.
Well, Mr. Chairman, we are looking for that direction now, so we can bring back a report to say if you wish to.
Campbell River is the spot we're headed to. So I would move that Campbell River be the location where.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none? Carried. Number 7. Bylaw 547, Fire Protection, Sayward Fire Protection Service. Report from the CAO be received. Director Wally, Director Mowini, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
I'd move that bylaw number 547, being a bylaw to amend the Sayward Valley Fire Protection Service to include the village of Sayward, be now introduced and read a first time.
Second.
Director Rice, a second. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
I'd move that the rules be suspended and the bylaw number 547 be given second and third readings.
Second.
And Director Rice. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
And I'd move that bylaw number 547 be authorized for approval on the basis of consent of the participants in accordance with S 349 of the Local Government Act.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Thank you. Correspondence. Correspondence, we have 1 through 4 be received.
We've received 1 through 4 correspondence.
Can I pull 4?
Too late. I'm just kidding. Don't look sad. 1 through 4 be received, pulling 4. Do I have a second? Director
Second.
Lott? Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. Go ahead with 4, Director Von Esch.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to point a couple things out. One is this letter does include some links to studies that have been done around the impact of the Short-Term Rental Act in other areas that I think speaks favorably to the decisions that certainly that Quadra and Cortez have made by opting in. And I also just want to point out that the letter starts by saying thank you for your email of March 4th. And I didn't send an email to the minister, so I'm not sure what the confusion is on that. Just wanted to point that out. Thanks.
Okay, so on receipt of, let's receive number 4, Short-Term Rental Accommodation Act. So on
Move receipt.
Thank you. Director Mowini. Do I have a second?
Second.
Director Von Esch. Discussion? Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. Q, members report, Regional District Director appointees. Director Chapman?
Thank you, Chair. In 2002, when the community charter came into effect, many changes were also made to the Local Government Act. And at that time, the Premier at the time, Gordon Wilson, Campbell, was recommending to municipalities to appoint the mayors to the Regional District Board. Now, I think in most cases that is done, but I'm not sure. So I move that staff prepare a report and draft policy on best practices for appointments to the regional board from member municipalities.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Director Dahl, thank you. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Thank you. Vancouver Island Climate Leadership Steering Committee.
Move
That's
receipt.
March. Thank you.
Second.
Director Von Esch, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Management report, none. New business, none.
Yes, there was.
New business?
I sent it in to you. NICC, Tom.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I do have a piece of new business. When I was up talking to the residents of Upper Campbell Lake, I know that sitting in previous BC Hydro meetings, BC Hydro had discussed the possibility of grants to help the residents shore up their properties with shoreline erosion. I believe that discussion took place probably more than a year ago. That was when I first heard about these. So the folks were wondering, where are the grants? Because they're spending significant money trying to shore up their properties, with the continual erosion. So my motion is to have staff to contact BC Hydro on whether there are grants for Upper Campbell Lake residents to offset their costs protecting their properties from shoreline erosion, and how residents could apply if there are such grants. If there are no grants, the residents would like to know why.
Okay. That was under new business.
So that was the
Very well.
motion.
That was the
I'll second
motion.
that.
You'll second that? Director Von Esch, discussion, further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Okay, closed session. Report from the CEO be received. Do I have a second?
Second.
Director Rice? Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. And B, that the meeting be closed to the public for matter of consideration deemed to fall within the parameters of subsection 90-1G, K, N, and O, and 90-2B of the community charter.
So moved.
Second.
Second discussion. All in favor? Sorry, Director Davis?
Will we be receiving another meeting invite for the closed meeting?
No, you will not. Just stay on the line.
Okay, thanks.
Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. We will terminate the regular board meeting and take 5 minutes. We're not terminating.